The reason why people have come to hate technology is because they don't have self-control. They can't regulate their time. They can't regulate their emotions. They go on social media and they get themselves mad. Like, I mean, really, whose fault is that?
Indifferent, if not a little resentful and maybe scared. Today I'm going to go over how fun and exciting technology used to be, how our perception of it has shifted to kind of hate it, and why this is all happening. Let me take you back to when technology was still fun. I'm not going to say this is the best era, but this is kind of right before people started to just fucking hate it.
Or like
you got things coming out like the iPod. Holy shit. I can listen to Beyonce, Hot Shell Ray, and pirate fighting sounds without the cumbersome tapes and CDs of the past. There were new computers dropping left and right.
Well, the reason why the iPod was so good is because before we had iPods, we had CDs. We had CD players. And even the really good CD players would skip. They would, obviously, CDs deteriorated over time, and you could only have one CD in at a time. So if you wanted to listen to a bunch of different music, you couldn't do that, really. And so that's the reason why. It's because the iPod solved a new problem that the existing technology didn't solve. And I think a lot of people's frustration with technology nowadays also is the fact that it creates problems to solve for itself. Or it solves problems that don't exist.
What do I want to buy? Maybe the computer with the big ass booty. I don't even know if I can handle all that ass.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go with the laptop with the red hot nipple in the middle.
I
Quick
had
side note,
one of those.
A friend once told me that their nipples get darker the angrier they get. I don't know if that's true.
I don't know.
If that's even relevant here, but I can't be the only one carrying the burden of knowing that. On second thought, this is kind of triggering. I think I'm just going to go with the Dell.
Oh.
This is the 2000s, not Toontown. You still had safe options like the Dell. If you were interested in safe options, though, gaming was just not for you in the 2000s. Not only was it really edgy for some reason, but every console was revolutionary. Oh my god, the new PlayStation and Xbox consoles have high-resolution buff dudes and bodacious babes.
I think that's true, that old consoles made way bigger leaps than consoles do now. Like, nowadays, you have consoles that come out, and it's basically the same thing. The last console that I think really made a big difference was the Nintendo Switch. And then the last one that had technology that was valuable was the PS3 because it came with a Blu-ray player. Other than that, yeah, a lot of the stuff didn't really matter.
And if you're not into that, you could just whack off with the Wii. Like
the
whack
Wii was
the
amazing.
tennis racket. Like console launches and even game launches were national events. I'm pretty sure businesses closed on the day Halo 3 came out. I mean, people camped out for this game. I don't think people even drove to the store for Halo Infinite. You know what?
Well, no, because nobody played it. But there are people, like, for example, whenever I went to the Nintendo Switch 2, like a fucking midnight release, there was like maybe 30 people there or so. And they were giving them out before midnight. And so we just went in there and got one. That was it, and left. And so, yeah, no, it does happen because you download it. Yeah. And like, I remember, I think it was Cataclysm that like me, Cody, and Jeff and my mom all went, and we went to the pre-expansion release of Cataclysm. It might have been Mr. Pandaria, but I think it was Cata. And I remember our friend Austin downloaded it remotely on his computer, right? Because that was the first digital download. And I remember we called him the F word constantly because he didn't go with us, right? We were so mad. We were like, bro, like, how do you just download it on your PC? No, you've got to go to the midnight release at GameStop with us. What do you mean, right? We were so mad at him. And I thought Wrath was. Well, I think that the Cata was the first time that we did it. And we were so annoyed. And that those events were so much fun. They were. And I think now people just digital download. But for physical releases, like, for example, we got the SNES Mini, my friend Eric and I, and like we got there at like 7:30 in the morning to buy one. And I swear to God, every single other person there was 32 years old. Literally every single one. It was all a bunch of fucking 90s to 1988 to 1992 year-old men. Half of them had their wife in the car that's like sitting there waiting, and you know, they're walking out. You know, that was it, right? And look at you now. Yeah, that was a while ago. And that's it. I was born in 88. Yeah, and so you still have this, but with software, it's different than hardware.
People camped out for literally everything in the 2000s. What was up with that? Huh? Captain Crunch is releasing an all berries variety?
Oh.
Someone get my camping tent. Probably the biggest camping event was for a phone, which is where we got hit the hardest in this downfall of technology. Yeah. Buying a phone was like buying a car. You had to weigh the pros and cons of every model and really picture what your life was going to be like.
Well, they were so different, right? I mean, you had a Nokia phone that was like this. You had Blackberries that were like that. You had the Motorola Razr. You had flip phones. You had like there was a lot of variation. Where like nowadays you have, there's the only variation is that some phones you can flip, right? Like Emmy has that phone that like is a Game Boy Advance basically. But other than that, or Game Boy SP, yeah, Game Boy Advance SP, where like you can like flip it back and forth. But that was it. Yeah, and that's literally it. Other than that, there's no other customization that you have.
So this one has a built-in MP3 player, high-speed 3G service, and a sliding keyboard.
Oh, that's big. That's real big. Wow.
Let me just go with the blue one, please. You got different phones coming out with cool new features, unique shapes.
Well, yeah. I mean, like we had these
varying sizes and keyboards that deployed in ways you never even could have imagined. There was genuinely something for everyone. Nokia, Razr, Sidekick, Pearphone, BlackBerry, and the iPhone were so novel and, more importantly, so diverse. They were worth camping out for. Kind of, not really. Today you just buy them online or go to the Apple store. Nowadays you walk into an AT&T store trying to buy a phone looking like this. They're just like, what the fuck? You look good for 65. How can I help you, sir? This concept of having something for everyone extended to the internet as well. Hey, check it out. We don't need cable when we could just watch homoerotic content on this YouTube thing. Finally, another outlet for me to show off my shit music. Wow, I really wish I could see my favorite celebrities share shitty one-liners and or racist hot takes.
Yep, there you go.
Awesome. I hope this doesn't turn into a schizo battlefield of who could be the most offensive or offended. You're telling me I could sign up to see what my old high school buddies are up to, or if I'm only 9 years old, I could sign up to just play games?
Be retarded. That's
I love Facebook.
Yep, there you go.
I hope this doesn't turn into a geriatric battlefield, arguing whether or not this video of Michael Jackson as Superman is real.
Wait, oh my God, is that really him?
There were always new websites cropping up, so all furries had to do was wait just one more second.
He's alive.
And there you go. There's a new website for you guys. Don't do anything weird on there. Although
you don't want to do that. And no, and that's always how it's been. But those websites are still around now. Like DeviantArt is still around. People still use DeviantArt.
Annoying. There was something fun about all websites looking different and getting redesigned every few years. A few years ago, I got this book from a used bookstore, and it just has a bunch of old Flash websites, and it is fucking sick. It is genuinely sad what happens to the design of websites.
I think that everybody thinks this is true until they have to use one of these websites, and then it's annoying and hard to understand. But I do think that having some flair to the website, so like here's a really good parallel. How cool was it, the UI for like Expedition 33 as a game, or for Metaphor ReFantasia? The UI was, it was its own type of art by itself. And so I'm not completely out on this idea, but I think that things have become more uniform because that's what makes more sense for more people.
Regularly browse the Pokemon website as a kid, and you know when a new redesign dropped, my little ass was popping champagne. I guess it was just apple cider. At the time, it seemed like technology was always advancing and getting better. You can see how positively we thought about it with the obsessive use of Fruitiger Arrow. This is officially a YouTube video because I said the word Fruitiger Arrow. Technology looks futuristic yet clean, and we thought it was going to integrate with our natural world. Butterflies were going to be flying through bubbles and neon green pastures. So yeah, it didn't really integrate with our natural world. It kind of did the opposite, but I'm getting ahead.
Well, the natural world integrated with technology instead.
myself. Actually, I already got ahead of myself, and it just arrived today. All right, going back to where I was, people were excited for what was to come. They had time to breathe between new innovations and enjoy the new product they just bought. New products also warranted being released. They would usually serve a purpose, you know, fix a problem, like tech products.
This is another issue right here, is that the iPhone, the new iPhone will probably do the same thing that the old iPhone did. And the new Samsung phone will probably do the same thing that the old Samsung phone did. But it will have slightly better audio or slightly better video. But 5% faster, exactly. And so you're really just buying like, after the iPhone came out, all people have been doing since iPhones is buying the new iPhone. This is basically an iPhone.
They're supposed to do. If a new iteration of a product came out, it was different enough to justify buying it. Like, yeah, GameCube could really use a controller that you could whack off. Now, compare all these generalizations to today. None of them are true anymore. Now, before we dive in, I don't mean for this to just be an old good, new bad, because looking at modern technology,
yeah, a lot of these things are pretty cool.
That's just not the case. We have incredible technology today. This is more about how our perception of it has changed and how technology is advancing in a less than desirable direction. Also,
I think technology is great. I'm not a big agreeer with this. I think that the problem is that companies just keep wanting to get paychecks for releasing the same product over and over. And that's not really a problem with technology. That's more a problem with that company.
This is not just a boomer thing or just a zoomer thing. Most people across all ages are starting to admit, yeah, we got a bit of a problem here. For example, think of how people reacted to when something as simple as FaceTime released. I could pick up my phone at any time from anywhere and video call whoever I wanted, and it didn't look like 2 pixels. It was genuinely mind-blowing. You know what? My friend had buffalo wings from Chuck E. Cheese the other day.
Well, it was mind-blowing. Like, my dad would talk about this. Like, back in the day, like, you know, 3,000 years ago, whenever he was a kid, they had a party line, which means that like each home in the area didn't have an actual unique dedicated phone line. And so if you picked up the phone, there was a chance that somebody else would actually pick up the phone instead, or somebody else would be on the phone at the same time, and it was like your neighbors. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, exactly. A grandparent said that. Yeah, exactly. So like, I think this is something that's happened in waves over time.
Okay, so I'm gonna give him a call and see how he's doing. Hey buddy, how's your stool?
You gotta help me. There's so much blood.
Alright. Now compare that reaction to when I say these 2 letters, AI, or these 3 letters, NFT, or these 4 letters, SPUM. This shit is in the...
I think AI has value. NFT doesn't have any value. People use AI all the time now. Like, everybody likes to complain about AI, but I see people constantly using AI.
The news every week,
It's
and we're tired of hearing about it. AI is more concerning because at least with NFTs, it was just kind of like an idiot pastime. You didn't have to worry about it affecting your everyday life, and it just kind of died out on its
Just
own
an
after
idiot,
a few
yeah.
months. Who knew that a poorly animated eyesore of an ugly-ass, shitty-ass...
Isn't it crazy how right I was about that guy getting his NFT stolen was the end of NFTs? Somewhere inside of me, I just knew like this is the beginning of the end. Seth Green, yeah,
gonna save these.
That's the guy.
Could you have predicted that? Can we call in That's So Raven and ask if she could have predicted that this ugly ass shitty cartoon was not gonna save the world of scamming that is NFTs? AI and automation advancements are not as fun as advancements in keyboard deployment technology or video game graphics. Like, we kind of have to be...
I think that people really like the ability, like if you look at the Studio Ghibli filter thing and how popular that was, I think that you can see that people still do revel and enjoy new technological leaps and technological innovation. And I think that's probably the most recent example that I could talk about that would be an indicator of people still enjoying new technology. And then you even have now, you've got the Google VEO3, which is the Google video editor. That also is really, really popular. People love that. But would you pay for a Studio Ghibli filter? Well, people pay for ChatGPT or they pay for some form of AI subscription that uses that as a function, yeah, they do. It's actually very common. That's why these companies are raising billions of dollars of capital. Yeah, I mean, sure. Darth Vader, yeah, remember Darth Vader in Fortnite? People love that.
3, 2,
Concerned with the outcome of the former. And this is kind of how we feel about everything in tech now. Hesitant and exhausted. Everything was becoming more convenient and solving all these little annoyances of everyday life.
Yeah.
But now we've regressed. You try to order food or even just look at the menu of a restaurant before you go, and it wants you to sign up, or it's going to throw you into the app store to download their app. You want to...
Okay, that's a good point. This is the first one I totally agree with. Having to set up an account or having to make another profile in order to use a piece of hardware that you've already paid your money for. Like, why do you not have just a localized piece of software that you can just install onto the PC that automatically detects that you are using this piece of hardware? Like a game launcher, like anytime that there's a game launcher for a game launcher, like I have to go to Steam and then I use Steam to open up another game. Oh, bro, fuck. No, man, that's too much.
Take the train, you gotta download an app. You want to take the bus in the same city, you gotta download a different app. You want to check into the emergency...
And another one that's really annoying is, like, have you ever been to a restaurant? Like, I'm in Austin, Texas, and so we've got a lot of these, like, kind of hippie restaurants and shit like this, is that you have a restaurant and they don't even have menus. You just have to scan a QR code in order to read the menu. Yeah, scan the menu. I don't like digital menus. I'm an old man now. Digital menus are too much. Yep, that's the bridge too far. My dad and I, we went to a place like that. I forgot, it was like some Mexican restaurant. And like, we thought it was gonna be a nice place you could sit down. Bro, everybody there was like fucking 21, drinking and screaming and yelling. And like, I came out there and like, we're like, well, where's the fucking menu? And they're like, scan it on your phone. And like, my dad doesn't, especially then, did not know how to even use a smartphone. And he was like, okay,
you've captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
let's just go to Cracker Barrel. Like, yeah. What's that? It's like, yeah, we gotta go.
emergency room because you have the sword of a Sengoku period ninja in your chest.
Sir, can you scan the QR code to check in through the app?
Yeah.
I don't have the app. I just have a sword in my chest. Can I do like a paper form or something?
Yeah.
Sir, can you scan the other QR code to download the app?
Then you got social media, which is just like being horrible now. Look at these statistics. And these ones too.
What's this here?
Being horrible now. Look at these statistics.
Teen and young adults in-person social engagement with friends, annual daily average in minutes. That's fair. Wow. I mean, yeah, I
am ready to put on
yeah, I could see that for sure. And that doesn't even count COVID. Yeah, keep that in mind.
And these ones too.
Dog
Okay, what about
ownership
these
growth.
ones? I think I'm putting up bad statistics, I hope. What started off as a fun way to connect has turned
That's
into...
pre-COVID.
I don't even know what to describe this
Yeah.
as. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what's going on with Instagram captions. Like, it's sassy, but you're also in the third person because you're the main
What?
character
I never
in
even seen
slang.
this.
And it's not just a girly thing. I'm not going to just dog on the girls
What
out
the
there.
fuck?
Us guys do this
I
shit
will.
too. We got default captions and poses too. You got to work
Yeah.
the boys into every caption and then throw up a 4 when you're posing with said boys. Hey, getting my colonoscopy with the boys. Picking up.
Is this true? I haven't noticed this. I don't think I follow any men on Instagram.
Lost from the store with my boys.
Yeah,
Just went fishing.
I
And then drunk drove and hit a family of 4.
or do I?
with
Yeah,
the
I don't know why I
boys.
would.
Then you got Snapchat, which I just
Maybe I
had to
got a
delete
couple.
because what the fuck am I gonna do with Snapchat? When
I
you're
don't
no
use
longer in
Snapchat.
high school and taking pictures of random people in class and drawing a wiener over them, there's really no point to this app. Plus, the Discovery tab is concerning. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't
I
wanna-
have not. I don't even have Snapchat on my phone. I've never installed Snapchat on my phone. Like, I used to have Snapchat, and I would use it sometimes, but I just don't really give a shit.
keep ranting about social media, so I'm just gonna leave off with these last two things. First of all,
I think it's also like Snapchat's mainly for younger, like it's mainly for like young adults and teenagers. And so like as you get older, I mean, you know, you're just not going to use it the same way anymore. 25 plus should have Snapchat. Yeah, exactly right.
everything has a TikTok feature. Instagram has one.
Drug dealers using Snapchat? If you're a drug dealer, you should use Telegram. You're just an idiot if you're using Snapchat. Yeah, I mean, what dumbass is doing that?
Snapchat has one. YouTube has one. The f***ing Guitar Tabs app has one. I'm trying to learn Love Bug by the Jonas Brothers. Why do I need to see a 12-year-old ripping their vocal cords to sing Alicia Keys? Second, if you're tired of all these apps becoming so f***ing bloated that you don't even remember what their original purpose was, you can download all these BS real social media apps that all your friends are just going to stop using.
Oh, that one died immediately. I remember that. That's a good idea, but for some reason, normies refuse to download it. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know the inner workings of, like, how selling drugs works now. Like, I have no idea. But, I mean, if you're not buying and selling with either a prepaid or through Telegram or Signal, you're like anything that you do, like, I mean, if you're selling weed, it doesn't really matter, right? Because you're never really going to get in trouble for that. But if you're doing anything else besides that and you're not using one of or all three of those things, you're just a retard and you deserve to go to jail. Like, I'm sorry, you're just a fucking, like, at a certain point, like, isn't this natural selection?
For 3 days. Like, I'm pretty sure I still have a friend actively posting to Be Real, just into the void.
What?
I have been f***ing with Locket though. That one's kind of cool. It puts pictures of my friends on my home screen. Social media lost the plot so long ago. They don't each have their niche anymore. They want to incorporate features from all the other apps so they could be the catch-all app. But I
think that's actually a really good point. Is it all social? So every social media app tried to be the everything app. Every social media app has a live streaming function now. Every single one has a doom scrolling 10-second video function. Every single one has a long-form video function or a short message function. That's a good point.
End up being bland. Like, why would I choose Instagram over Snapchat or Google Plus, the best social media platform exists? And this is the big killer here, the homogenization of everything. I already mentioned every app having a TikTok feature, but we also have a story feature on every app.
Even Twitch has a story feature.
Staying on the topic of homogenization.
But Twitch does not need a story feature at all. Total fucking bloat.
Go back to phones. I'm just gonna show you phones from like 20 years ago, and then phones from today. Dude, that sucks. These are all just iPhones. It's the same with cars, tablets, and laptops, where everyone wants to copy the style of Tesla and Apple.
It's because it works. That's the reason why it's the best style. Yeah. It's the best style. It's the best function. Like, the ones with, like, the keyboards had their own problems. The ones that would flip open would have their own problems. There's a reason why everybody uses this. The same one. Yeah, phones are huge today. Yeah, exactly.
Respectively. Not only has tech gotten so homogenized, but it's gotten very invasive too. And I don't mean in like a toddler coughing in your face kind of way. I mean in a rash kind of way, where it's always there reminding you,
hey, I'm here. You want to play with me?
That's what a rash sounds like. It sounds like Ash Ketchum.
Whoa, Pikachu! Click my link tree in the bio to check out my SoundCloud.
I don't know.
Usually link trees don't go to SoundClouds.
To keep these impressions in the videos. I don't know why I never choose to cut them out. We reached a point where technology was seamless and solved real problems. And past it, where now technology is inconvenient. You used to get in your car and you had your music, AC, and all your little car features easily accessible because you're hurling a 1,000-pound vehicle at 65 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You got to be able to access these everyday things quickly and easily. Then we passed that point. Now everything is behind 3 menus on a touch screen that you have to look at.
I don't have any of these problems, and I have a 2025 phone. Like, there's just a button that goes from 1 to 7. Yeah, I mean, like, we did have, so like I rented an Audi, and I remember the shifter for the Audi was like a light switch. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, because I'm used to like having, the shifter, right? I mean, you're going to go up and down. And I don't do stick shift, right? I'm just talking about the automatic shifter. And like, even that was weird. Everything's computer. Yeah, and well, mine, like pretty much everything is computer. But I think it's fine. But yeah, some of them are bad. Some of these here, some cars you do have to use the dashboard screen to do that kind of stuff. That's so stupid. Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky that I don't have a car like that at all.
And pray that you don't hit 2 kids in the dog while using it. Home phones let you call your friends and plan ahead or catch up. You can leave a message if they're not home, and it wasn't the end of the world if they didn't answer for a little while. Cell phones helped bridge that lost connection when you're out on the town and you can't.
Well, I hated that. Like, I hated whenever people would do that. I love the ability for people to text me because then I just don't respond. Or I respond back in like a week and I'm like, oh yeah, my bad. And like, yeah, I'll get back to them whenever I get back to them. That's it. Yeah, no, that's exactly how I feel.
On each other, or you're just not home, or there's an emergency. You saw a ninja slinking around your house.
Ooh.
Now we're way past that point of feeling a genuine
Phone
need.
etiquette is
There is
needed,
no reason I should be able to receive work emails when I'm going out after 5 p.m. And there's no reason I should be able to post a picture of the sunset with the caption, golden hour with my golden girlie. There's no reason for any of this. It's just noise. And you can just say, oh, just quit your phone, but people freak the out if you don't respond for a few hours.
See, for me, it's normal for me to take 2 to 3 weeks to respond to a text message. That's just the way it is. It's just how it is. I might not like it. It might be annoying, and I'll get back to you in like a month. But yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I'm down to hang out. This message was received, what is this, May 1st? Yeah. Yeah, and like, yeah, the 36-day rule. You suck, I know. But like, for me, I don't know, I do my stream, I'm busy, I'm tired, and then like, by the time I think about, okay, maybe I should socialize, it's like 1 in the morning, I'm like, geez, they're probably asleep by now, I'm not gonna text them. And then it's the next day, and then the same thing happens again.
It's out of the norm now. You can't just ditch technology, especially with the way it's so integrated with our everyday lives. Some people can't get around their city or do their job without having a smartphone. Technology...
I'm one of those people. I don't know how to drive anywhere. Like, before we had MapQuest, I would get lost. And when I did have MapQuest, I would still get lost. And I stopped getting lost whenever I had GPS. That was it. And also, here's the best part. I still get lost.
It used to be exciting and helpful. It solved problems we all faced in our everyday lives. But with the way it's so homogenized now, it's starting to create more problems than it's solving. There's no more of that something for everyone. Everything's got to be one size fits all now. Every phone is an iPhone. Every car is a crossover SUV.
Yep.
Every console is basically the same,
Fortnite.
except for Nintendo. They're just the same as themselves.
It's the same as the other one, the other Nintendo, yes.
Now, I don't want to hear anyone saying, hey, bro, I think you're just depressed. That's why nothing's exciting anymore. Yeah, I'm depressed. My big-ass thumbs can't type on this stupid touchscreen keyboard, and there are no phones with physical keyboards anymore. I'm depressed. I can't flex on my friends with a sick new phone. What am I going to pull up with the iPhone 16 and be like, hey, bro, hey, this phone is like all your phones, but I can combine emojis. I'm not going to say technology peaked and we should just stop making new technology because I don't think that's true. But we passed the point where it was all so exciting because it was genuinely useful.
I think it's because people were young and it was new and you were making bigger gaps and bigger jumps. It's the same as video game graphics. Like when the PS6 comes out, it's not going to be as crazy as the PS5 in terms of graphics. And when the PS4 came out, it wasn't as crazy of a jump than the PS3 was. Like, the fact is that you are hitting a certain degree of, saturation. Like, and like, you're hitting diminishing returns. And the new technology, like the Google Glass or like the Apple Vision, is like $3,500. and the only thing you get out of it is looking like a retard. So yeah, it's definitely a lot different. The PS2 Go? Yeah, dude, the PS2 was a totally different universe.
Looked so fucking sick. It would be cool if it was possible to just ditch your phone and get a dumb phone, but I like having Spotify and Venmo and the Chipotle app so I can get a free bowl once every 7 years. All I really want is a cool looking phone with a physical keyboard, but until then, I'll just keep buying these cheap ass Google.
The one thing about this video that I 100% agree with is about the proliferation of apps. Like, I don't want to download the Domino's app. I just want to order Domino's. That's it. I don't want any bullshit or anything else to happen.
Pixels whenever my current one breaks. I really don't use this for anything other than phone calls, texting, and checking Facebook Marketplace for the weirdest shit I can ever find. Look at this shit I found the other day.
That's really cool. Holy shit.
30 seconds before you
That's
attack.
badass.
Get ready.
I'd say everything I talked about is worth it because I got to see this. Channel that subscribe button for videos about literally anything. Everything goes at this point. Comment what your favorite thing about old phones was, and thank you for watching.
Boomer needs a jitterbug. Yeah, I feel like technology back in the day was like it was solving more problems. Whereas, like, I mean, I think a tablet is a great example of this. Like, I have a tablet. I don't know where it is. Somewhere, it's on the floor somewhere over there. And I bought it, and I hardly use it because a tablet is basically just a PC. Like, it's basic. Like, what am I doing with the tablet that I'm not already doing with my phone or PC? And so you just have all, like, there's nothing. It's a big phone. Yeah, exactly. And so what's going on with this at all? It's a worse PC? Yeah, but you already have a laptop for that. And like laptops are better than tablets. Tablets, the only function that tablets really have is that if you work in sales or any form of business presentation, tablets do a tremendously good job at being able to communicate something to a client or a person you're trying to sell to in a way that is professional, clean, technologically advanced, and just useful, right? It looks professional. So like if you're at a you know, like you have a dealership, you're trying to sell a product or whatever, like I think a tablet is like your S-tier device. But that's like such an like how many people are really doing this, right? It's very unlikely. It's mostly for kids. Yeah, I guess so. Reading in bed. I just read on my phone. Am I weird? I think maybe I am. But yeah, overall, I think technology nowadays, I love technology. I love using technology. I'll link you guys a video. Give it a like. And yeah, it's a great. I think it's a great analysis, especially with like the phone thing about how every phone is an iPhone. And yeah, sure, I think it's definitely true, but you're gonna see more and more people that I think bring this up and are frustrated with it. But also, I think people become like kind of exhausted or fatigued from technology, because technology is just repeating the same stuff over and over and over. It's not like there's anything new or special or different going on at all. And I think that's what's really kind of alienating people more than anything else. Brain images to digital? Yeah, sure. But right now, it's just, I feel like in the last like 5 years, we've pretty much had the same exact technology, just repeated over and over. Yeah, I can understand that as well. Yeah, exactly. Exponential growth that we had has stopped. Well, the exponential growth, well, the problem is that even if you experience exponential growth, like let's say you go from 8K resolution to 16K resolution, the difference between the two is not going to be as big as the difference between the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64. That's the problem, is that you're hitting a diminishing return because the perceptual reality that a human can live in has a ceiling as well. So we're already hitting that ceiling in general. Like 1080p is great, 1440 is even better, 4K is amazing, but like when I'm at 1440 and I move from that to 4K, I'm not seeing the big difference that I saw whenever I moved from 1080p to 1440, right? And do you see what I'm saying, right? Like you're hitting diminishing returns over and over. And yeah, I'm at 1440 right now myself. I don't need any more than that. And I feel like 4K doesn't have that big of a value. So until we get, you know, Sword Art Online and Neuralink, We're gonna be at an impasse with technology, and I can't wait to see that happen. This is a good video, and I've never watched one of his videos before. One of these videos, but I did like it. And IRL streaming in your front yard, yeah, we'll see what happens. Virtual reality, yes, clearly. Sounds like a boomers, man. The boomers say that about 60 FPS. You can't tell if the difference is higher. Well, I think it's just it's a reality. Like, I mean, you can look at what photographic quality is, and then you can compare that, and then you can look at what the difference between the two things are. And, like, yes, obviously image resolution has diminishing returns after probably, you know, like 1440 2K resolution. It has a diminishing return. And it gets worse every time, right? Yeah, I need 1440. And also, the human eye, like the difference, for example, a 500 hertz monitor. I'm assuming the human eye can probably see at about 300 to 400 frames per second. Maybe 200, somewhere around there. Probably between 200 to 400, based off of the genetics. Oh, is it 1,000? I think it's over 1,000. Really? That's crazy. It's like 140? Yeah, I don't know. But like, and CRTs were about like 700 FPS, right? Something like that, not my eyes. Yeah, I'm at about 35 FPS or so. And yeah, something like that. Infinite FPS? Well, it's which can be perceived as higher, right? And I think that's really what I'm discussing more than anything. But yeah. And anyway, Gross, yeah, sure. I'm gonna go and take a break for those. Anyway, guys, thank you all very much for watching. I will see you then. All right, boys. Peace. Yeah.
Today's story is actually going to tangibly impact you. So, for 5 years, there's been a battle waging at the highest levels of the games industry. It's massive, it's between Apple, it's between Epic, and it's around the principle of fairness. And the big news today is that Apple just lost. But they didn't.
This is a huge fucking W. Massive fucking W. Because basically Apple and Google have a duopoly over all apps on all smartphones. And Epic was suing them over that, and Epic won. This is huge. I didn't make a video about this or talk about this at all. I forgot why. But I'm actually like so happy this happened.
Lose because Epic Games outmaneuvered them, or any kind of insane bigger brain play from Tim Sweeney. No, they lost because, in the words of the judge presiding over this decision, Apple leadership, quote, outright lied under oath, and in deciding not to provide legal injunctions, Tim Cook, quote, chose poorly. It's an ominous thing for a judge to be...
He chose poorly, Jesus Christ.
He's saying to you, this, though, is a dramatic case. It has impacts that will reverberate across the entire games industry, and honestly, far wider than that, meaning it truly will impact everyone who watches this video. Here's how all this started. So, Tim Sweeney is a man on a mission, and it's a mission that's cost him and his company more than $1 billion over the last 5 years. It's fair to say that he's pretty committed. Now,
it stands to make them over 10 billion, or probably more than that.
5 years ago is when he decided that Apple and Google's exclusive storefronts on their mobile platforms were in fact unreasonable monopolies.
Yes.
In his opinion. Essentially, he says
yes, bro, yes! I fucking agree with this so hard. I was so happy to see this.
They don't earn their 30%.
Now, do it to MasterCard and Visa. This is the exact logic they need to apply to MasterCard and Visa. Holy shit.
Fee. Rather, they impose it, and that because of that, they're restricting how developers could make money and what sort of deals that they could actually offer to consumers. So what he decided to do was force their hand. So he started something called Project Liberty, and here's how it worked. Fortnite suddenly got an option where users could buy currency directly from Epic, right? Directly, not through your
Google Play
payment or Google payment thing. That, of course, meant that Apple and Google immediately booted Fortnite because it did break their store policies. And this is exactly what Tim Sweeney actually wanted. He wanted his game.
The ironic thing about this, and this is very clever by Fortnite, is that this commercial was made by Apple.
kicked off. And we pretty much know that because Epic immediately filed lawsuits that they had been preparing.
Very
clever. These were designed to force the stores to change those policies. Now, in the case of Google, it actually went so much better than any of us could have expected. Evidence actually emerged that certain developers like Activision had been paid not to rock the boat, and that they deleted documents and were broadly proven to have acted unfairly.
What a surprise. What a surprise that the duopoly by two massive companies was actually propped up by a bunch of corruption. Who could have ever guessed?
They lost on all counts as determined by a jury.
And what's this here? It's actually much more impactful than this video is saying. I'm an app developer, and prior to this lawsuit, you charge 30% no matter what, even if you are below 1 million in sales. Yeah, no, I understand. This is a massive change. And remember, I was complaining about this for a while, and people were saying, "Oh, we'll just build your own." Nope, don't need to now.
The platform is open.
Yeah, it's an antitrust market. Exactly.
New stores and Google have appealed. It was a complete win for Epic,
This
but their
should
fight
be-
against
this should
Apple
happen
is
way
an
more,
entirely
by the
different
way.
story. Things have begun to look quite bad for Epic. You see, the outcome of that initial trial, the original one, was an almost complete defeat for Epic Games. They basically could not prove being the emphasis word there, that any kind of monopoly or unfair action was going on. But there was one
it was so
exception.
obvious.
An injunction was placed against Apple, and this was to end anti-steering provisions. You might think, what is anti-steering? Well, it's actually pretty simple. So basically, it meant that Apple could no longer prevent developers from directing users to make purchases outside of the store. Basically steering you, the customer, somewhere else.
Yeah.
So as an example, that would be buying V-Bucks in Fortnite through a web client
Directly
rather
through
than
the-
Apple's purchasing system, which would thus avoid Apple's 30% cut.
Right.
Now, at the time, the judge said that Apple should be entitled to something, but that they can't force people to use their in-app purchase systems. Apple then spent 3 years appealing, and, you know, it's
Failed.
Apple. They can afford lawyers, but they really got nowhere on that front. And this
Fuck them. That's what you get.
is when that same judge came back and filed a new injunction against Apple for their behavior in the last 3 years. And this one truly is remarkable, and depending on how things shake out, it could even be
Would
a
this
criminal-
also affect Steam? No, it won't affect Steam because Steam doesn't have a monopoly that they can exercise in the same way that Apple and Google can exercise their monopoly. If Steam was 95% of the entire gaming market, then yes. But the big problem is that, so the issue is not that this is happening. The issue is that it's happening and nobody else has access to the market without using this. So, like, for example, like you have dozens of other launchers that an individual can use that's not like Steam. You also have individual company launchers. You have the Epic's launcher, the Epic Games launcher. You have Good Old Games. So there are so many other instances where Steam is effectively like they don't have a monopoly the same way Apple does. It's just that simple. This is antitrust monopolies. That's the reason why it's bad. It's not even bad because of what they're doing. It's bad because they're doing it and nobody can say no. There's nowhere else to go to do it.
component.
That's the difference.
Wow. So, it wasn't just for a lack of compliance with the original order, but for contempt of court, which is usually frowned upon. So much so that they've been referred to the U.S. Attorney's Office to consider criminal contempt proceedings. That would be dramatic. Now,
I like
the
the
judge
sound of
essentially
that.
was not pleased that Apple implemented new costly fees around off-app purchases, where basically they were effectively replacing one anti-competitive process with another.
Yes.
Meaning, of course, you know, devs lose, but also us customers lose.
This
And
is
while-
another very big component to it, is that the customers, it is ultimately, like, what should the law do? The law should make it to where customers and the most amount of people have the most fair and equitable ability to do business and to receive products at a reasonable price. That is what consumer protection laws are made to do. The fact is that Apple is actively working against that. They are actively working against that through lobbying. They are actively working against that through getting these different cases, fighting these cases. And they're ultimately trying to make you spend more money, the consumer, so they can get a percentage of that money.
While they were doing all that, they were also misleading the court over what they were doing. Here's a quote. That it thought this court would tolerate such insubordination was a gross miscalculation. As always, the cover-up made it worse.
Man.
For this court, there is no...
This is
second.
the United States District. Oh my God.
Feel the wrath of the goddess!
Bite of the apple.
Damn.
Gigi does quite the singer. So she laid out then some clear rules. These are practices that Apple are banned from. Number one, imposing a fee on purchases made outside an app. That means that they have no reason, therefore, to track those purchases.
Wow.
Now, ban number two, setting conditions on how devs can direct users outside of an app, including restricting how links work. Basically, you know those design anti-patterns that are just trying to get you, the consumer, to clearly do something by, you know, making a link look weird or misleading design, that sort of thing. Third, banning certain types of app from directing users to outside purchases. And finally, using, quote, emotive language to persuade consumers to remain in the in-store purchase system. Basically, scaring people who don't know better and, well...
Something like where it comes up with like a red warning box and it says, warning, you might be leaving this store and your computer could be vulnerable. So they can't go and say that.
Actually seen Apple do some things, saying you can go and make a purchase.
They did that? Of course they
not
did.
using the App Store, but you know, the App Store is very secure and very safe, which to an average person who's not tech savvy could basically look like it's Apple saying, hey, you could get scammed if you don't click this link. P.S. This link gets us lots of money too. And of course the reason why these things are banned is, well, because Apple has been doing all of these things. That's what's led to this whole case. Now, in response, they have now begun complying and appealing. It'll be interesting to see how malicious...
See, this is, you can just do things. These companies have no power. The government has all the power. And if enough people get together, we can just make the companies do what we want. That's the truth. And if they don't do it, we put them in jail. That's it. It's literally it. And you support people to do that, and that's it. Never ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. Well, they're going to need forgiveness now. Here, chat, we the people. Yeah, there's no reason for for citizens to put up with this. The EU has already. The EU is way ahead of us on this kind of stuff. And I think that they definitely are much more tech savvy and they have better consumer protections than the US does. And we need to catch up to the EU.
Their compliance is, I imagine it will be as malicious as is humanly possible without getting in even more trouble. But all of this is happening while the rest of the industry is licking its lips. Some developers already had updates to go on this. Spotify were a major one. They framed this as a huge consumer win, which in fairness I would say it absolutely is. Now we can do insane things like manage our subscriptions in an app. We can use different payment options and we can see
Think
cost.
about how much money Apple's losing with this. Probably billions of dollars.
Hero or villain.
You can now buy Kindle books in the Kindle app. Patreon memberships are no longer marked up on iOS to counteract the store tax and lots of things. But of course, let's bring it back to Tim Sweeney and Epic Games. So, the Epic Games Store mobile version already existed as of last year, but now they are really ramping things up. Within a week of the ruling, Epic announced their web store fee would drop to 0% for your first $1 million in revenue, with that starting this June. That's obviously
what a
awesome
surprise.
for a dev. Plus, much
It's
like
crazy if you're a dev.
Epic Online Services stuff, what they've done with the store is they've built a solution that people can use regardless of platform. So, Google, be it Apple, anything. But more than that, it doesn't need to be the literal Epic Games Store. That's because web shops can basically run on their infrastructure, and that will let any developer go outside Apple's payment system with no fuss. Yes, Tim Sweeney's definitely taken this one personal, and you know what? I'm giving the drama. Anyway,
he should. And also, like, I'm glad, like, I mean, Epic has done things that I've, like, disagreed with in the past. Like, especially, like, the way that they incentivize their launcher. And I even, by the way, just so you guys know, I was in the trenches. I met a guy at an industry function that worked at Epic, and I complained to him about every problem that you guys have with the Epic Game Store. I brought it right to him. And I said, here's my phone number, you want to text me, I can help you fix this. Listen, this is not good, nobody likes this, it's annoying, gamers hate this shit. And so that was it. I just want to let you know that I put the word in, I did my best.
It is great for devs, But players are also being incentivized here, where you're going to get 5% reward points through purchases on those shops and the Epic Games Store, but that's boosted to 20% until the end of August. So that essentially is the big clap back against Apple. But there is the other thing, the Fortnite. So Tim Sweeney has proposed that Fortnite can return to app stores within weeks, like super quick, provided Apple allows them to do so. He also said he'll drop all litigation as part of a peace plan, provided Apple roll out this
Oh, he's actually putting... Oh my god. He really playing some bullshit, huh? Yeah, he's just putting it down.
Policy worldwide. And instead, as of the time of writing and recording this video, Apple have, went and blocked the Fortnite submission. Now, of course, all of this legal maneuvering so far is only in the US. The current policy implementation on Apple's side only applies in that region right now. Fortunately, though, for those of us benefiting from EU rules, we've already had some things for months already, and...
See, this is the thing, right? Is EU is so far ahead of us with this.
Apple can't stop it. An absolute bomb was dropped in the industry in March of this year, when both Google and Apple were found to be in breach of the Digital Markets Act by the EU Commission.
Oh, really? How interesting.
And this is pretty damn big stuff. They can absolutely sting these companies. So with Google, it was for anti-steering practices, and Apple was for blocking third parties from interfacing with their systems.
That's right.
This follows last August's, told you we'd come back to that, ruling that Apple had to open their platform up to alternative stores, and another breach from Apple in April of this year, also on steering. Now, in that last case, they also faced a cool little €500 million fine.
Just a 500 million, just to let you know, like, yo, by the way, you know, like, we know what you're doing, right? It's not a lot, but you know.
What was absolutely flagrant breaches of the law. Apple are obviously appealing, because if that's what you do when you're a company, but there's a clear thing, there's a clear trend. The tide is absolutely shifting. Now, it's not going to happen in all regions, but we are seeing...
The reason why the tide is shifting is because more and more people are getting old enough and inside of the voting base who can understand how this unfair monopoly exists, and they're supporting candidates and policies that are tech savvy. So the big problem that we have right now is that, especially in government, like, you have two problems. Number one, you have politicians that are bought and paid for, which is the real problem. That's the main big problem. But the second problem that we have is that you have a tremendous amount of people that work in government that don't really have a functional day-to-day understanding with how technology works, because they don't use it the same way that we do, because they're like 75 years old. So they didn't grow up with it the same way that I grew up with it, or you grew up with it, or anything like that. And so as those people retire and leave the government and new people come in and replace them, you can see these companies easily having these rules being put on them much faster. And every single year, the tide turns, and it will begin turning faster and faster and faster.
5 to 10 years.
Now it's millennials? Yeah, exactly. I'm so glad this is happening. I've been waiting on this for a long time.
4, 3,
regulation over major platforms to protect consumer interests from companies who otherwise would control them. So between that and, I guess, a billionaire slap fight led by Tim Sweeney, well, look, we should take these wins when we can get them. Not to bring up an old drama, and it is a bit of a different story, but I suppose a little bit like how Hulk Hogan versus Gawker was, in fact, Peter.
Bro, Peter Thiel doing that, ultimate gamer move. Absolutely fucking based. I remember whenever he did that shit, and he shut down that entire fucking website. Yeah, that was so good. So basically, Peter Thiel was like, he was like made PayPal, and you know, he's like a well-known, like, you know, super rich billionaire guy, right? And so he got the fact that he was gay exposed by Gawker, but he couldn't do anything about it. Oh, he's in Palantir now? I didn't know that. But anyway, but yeah, he was in PayPal as well. And so Hulk Hogan, though, did have a case where they leaked a sex tape, I think, of Hulk Hogan, and Peter Thiel bankrolled the entire fucking lawsuit and killed Gawker.
I remember when that happened, bro. Like, I was so happy.
Gawker.
Yeah.
You know, this is all
Baller
kind of
move,
billionaire
yeah.
slap fights. Now, the thing with Tim Sweeney, right? He does have good principles. There are good principles that he talks about, right? And yes, it's good he's trying to hold Apple to those. But that does not make Tim Sweeney automatically on your side. Sometimes it just so happens that we're aiming at the same target. Now, he will end up benefiting from this massively, and in a financial way. And of course, that's because his company is the one building the wraparound solutions that power these out-of-app purchases. And that's really big. And that means that we can appreciate the consumer good that this does. We absolutely can. And the work that the regulators are doing to break down these walled gardens. And in an ideal world, right, once the walled garden is so big and so ubiquitous, you might have to, you know, restrict the freedom of Apple to go and run a monopoly, because not only will it be good for consumers, it will also be good for competition. But
yes, exactly. And it's most importantly good for everybody. The only people that it's good for now is Apple. That's an Apple platform that's too large. Yeah, and absolutely.
I also do think, you know, Standard Oil gets broken up. Who's left with the money to gobble up all the assets? Oh, pretty much the same people. So there's always that thing then where you can have these good pro-consumer regulations, but it's the incumbents with the resources who are immediately able to get around them or exploit the new opportunity. And Epic Games basically, you know, doing its store as a backend, do payment providing for everybody else. Well, while it is good because it means there is more competition, it also does disproportionately benefit Tim Sweeney. So, Tim Sweeney...
That's fine. If somebody else benefits, but everybody else does at the same time, that's a win-win situation. Yeah.
You know what?
Okay.
You have led to a domino of events that I think is absolutely good for consumers, and I think it's good for developers. But does not mean we will not be critical.
Apple Games
of you.
L, Apple
And on the topic
PCL,
of the good guys being, let's just say, a little bit rumbly, okay, we have to talk about Capcom, and the good news is you can actually watch that video right now. The link is in the place.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad that Bellior made a video about this. I saw this happen, and I never really talked about it when it did happen. It happened like almost a month ago, I'm pretty sure, maybe at least a couple of weeks ago, and it was a massive, massive issue. Missed that video? Well, I'm not going to watch it right now. I was going to do some other stuff right now. But, yeah, that's really the way I feel about it. This is a huge, huge thing. And I think it also sets a precedent. I really hope that this opens up a conversation about how it's problematic that MasterCard and Visa effectively control the same duopoly with, what do you call it? They control the same duopoly with the payment processing. Because they do the exact same thing. And they make decisions based off of, oh, well, we don't think this is okay or not. Okay, well, if you don't think this is okay or not, and it's not breaking the law, then you've effectively removed an entire company from the market by just the nature of your company. You can't do that, right? That's not good for a free market to have a couple of people that just control the entire thing, especially whenever it's such an important part of the pipeline. So I really hope that this logic is applied to the other companies like this as well. I'm very happy about this. Isn't Steam at risk now with this? Steam is at risk now with this, but that's a good thing. Number one, it's a good thing because it's good for customers. And again, like, things that are good for customers are the main things that matter. Link it again? Yeah, give them a like, because I'm very, very happy about it. Yeah, extremely happy about it. Japan's currently suffering because of Visa. Well, that's Japan's laws, right? I mean, like, I don't know really what else besides that. Google is next. Yeah, definitely. Support Steam, boycott the rest. Steam is never at risk because it's actually good. The difference with Steam is that Steam doesn't operate a monopoly. Like, for example, like, I can just pull up this, right? Like, let's say I want to play Wuthering Waves. Okay, so I want to play Wuthering Waves. I can play Wuthering Waves on Steam, or I can play it on the official launcher, and it's very easy for me to do that. The difference with the Apple Play Store and the Google Play Store is that they create a bottleneck to where it's almost impossible to get any apps from anything else besides that. Or on Epic. Yeah, exactly, right? And I think, yeah, I had it on Epic Games as well. That's the reason why they're bad. And so, like, the problem with, I mean, like, I would agree with you that Steam is an issue if Steam was the only player on the market, but they're not. And there are tons of other people that have their own markets as well. And so Steam doesn't need to be regulated because it's not able to exercise a monopoly. What about game consoles too? I think that you could, I think there probably could be an issue with that, but it just depends on what happens, right? And Apple's moving to buy Unity. That can be very dangerous. I mean, I don't know, maybe, right? I mean, I have no idea. The difference with also with Steam is that you can sell your stuff elsewhere and link it externally, but you cannot sell it for cheaper using Steam's infrastructure. I don't know about the nuance to that, so I just can't really comment on that. I can't talk about that too much, right? Talk about Nintendo. Well, Nintendo, see, here's the difference, is that Nintendo doesn't own a monopoly on video game companies, on video game consoles. So, like, there are plenty of people that own an Xbox, and plenty of people that own a PlayStation, and plenty of people that own a PC. So the difference is that where in these other cases, Apple and Google pretty much control the entire pipeline, that's not the case with computers, or sorry, with phones, or with game consoles, Jesus Christ, with game consoles. So that's the big difference there. After the Snow White thing, I'm gonna be honest, I will be shocked if she gets cast in almost anything. Nobody will want to cast her, and here's the real reason why I think nobody's gonna want to cast Rachel Zegler. It actually has nothing to do with any of her comments besides that, and it has to do with her making the Free Palestine post on her promotion for the film. That is the reason why I think that no other studio will ever work with her again. And it's not because, like, oh, it's Jews. No, it's not about that at all. It's because she's taking a political issue and she is putting it on the media that she's putting out there. Yeah, exactly. Oh, politics spy? Exactly, right? Yeah, people are immediately out of that. It's unprofessional. It's PR nightmare. It's just alienating.
It was supposed to be her career's biggest movie, but was so brutally criticized, it instead became the one that destroyed her life.
Pretty much I can't post a picture of myself on Twitter without a bunch of people telling me how ugly I am.
Fantastic! Welcome to my fucking life. Then don't. Like, damn.
That's hard. Simultaneously wishing people would stop sending me death threats.
Oh, geez.
Or perhaps it was all part of the plan, because decades ago, Walt Disney himself said Snow White should never be remade, but they went ahead.
Some things aren't meant to be remade, they're meant to be remastered. So somehow he predicted this was going to happen? Or they're meant to be remembered?
By the eye of Agamotto.
How the fuck did he know that? Damn.
But they went ahead anyway, and by the time the trailer dropped, people hated it already.
Yeah.
If I saw this movie on a plane, I would still walk out. Was it that hard to find someone who actually looks like Snow White?
Yeah.
This comment made a good point. I just find it funny that her name is Snow White and she's not white. It just defeats the purpose. Petitions to cancel the remake started immediately.
Yeah, people went
quickly
absolutely
snowballing
crazy
into
on
over
this.
2.3
million dislikes. Imagine having that much of a dedicated hater base. That's insane.
2 million dislikes.
Jesus.
Leading people to wonder why Disney wasn't canceling the movie or making some changes. Well, they did make changes. For starters, they swapped out real dwarf actors for CGI, which looked hideous. Instead of the beloved original characters, we got creepy, soulless abominations that looked like they crawled out of a failed video game. And strangely,
Yeah, because doing the opposite was considered like some form of ableism. That's the reason why. It was so stupid.
Action remake, even the trees were CGI, which was an atrocious waste of money as well. To make matters worse,
So they couldn't find any trees, guys. You gotta understand. I mean, filming is hard.
removed these iconic shots from the original, one of which being "Someday My Prince Will Come," because
What a
apparently
surprise.
Snow White dreaming of love makes her too dependent, which only makes sense considering there's no prince either, just a bandit named Jonathan.
So there's no Prince Charming and just a bandit. Wow, this really is for women nowadays, isn't it?
I was created in a lab.
Jesus.
I was nothing.
That's bad.
Hydra isn't exactly known for their
The writers intentionally didn't want a prince saving Snow White.
By making him a thief and a lowlife, rather than an authoritative figure of any kind. It's as if the idea of a balanced relationship is offensive to them.
Of course it is, because a lot of these women, you know what they have?
3, 2,
personal unresolved trauma. And so they have some issue that they've had with some man in their life, and they're looking for media to reinforce the way that they feel. That's it. Yep, a chip on their shoulder. Absolutely.
It felt more like a political statement than a kid's movie. And in case it isn't obvious, it was a garbage cash grab. The ending scenes felt like a Diddy party, and no surprise, people absolutely hated it. But there was one
Snow
thing
White is worse than AIDS.
they hated even more. Snow White herself. Why? Well, arrogance, that's why. Back in 2020, Rachel Zegler called Jeremy Renner a racist, sexist, transphobic garbage monster based on
What the fuck is this bitch talking about? Oh my god! Racist, sexist, transphobic garbage monster. Damn!
irrelevant allegations that were proven to be false. And when they use
okay, there we go. So let's see here. Let me read it. Jeremy Renner has faced serious allegations from his ex-wife, including claims of threats and reckless behavior. What does that have to do with being transphobic? No criminal charges have been filed against him, and the allegations have not been definitively proven. Rayner has consistently denied the allegations, and legal proceedings so far have not resulted in any findings supporting any claims. So,